My lord, they have taken Madeira. And Nariko? Alive, my lord. Thank you. Dismissed. Yosuke, come with me.
Tell me where you sent her before I...
Bad luck to threaten a monk, Mari-chan. Besides, he isn't going to tell us.
Maridoro, where is our lady? Don't know, don't care. Come with me.
No tracks, no sightings, my lord. I think our lackeys were telling the truth. She's gone. Well, that settles matters in a fashion. Forget it, we return to Kyoto. Nothing, my lord. Good. Horsemen of Takeda, follow me. And horsewomen, of course.
I'm right behind you, my lord.
You're the last of my Hatamoto, Nariko. If you weren't behind me, who'd keep me alive? Especially today. I'm feeling rather reckless.
I'm not even needed, my lord. They will break as soon as we outflank them. If we can find them, that is.
We'll find them soon enough. In fact, I think I can smell some Tokugawa fear right now. Over this way. Hurry!
We've left everyone else behind.
No difference. They've already run. All that build-up for nothing. You've done it, men. Take all you can. You've earned it. Nariko, bring the sake up from the baggage.
Yes, my lord.
Hello and welcome back to Nariko's Treasure, where Nariko is now riding with Great Lord Takeda of the Takeda clan. It's 9 months on from the events at Madeira, and Nariko has managed to get her way into the Hatamoto Guard of one of the nation's most powerful individuals, and now is simply one of the many soldiers in the clan wars. As a soldier of Great Lord Takeda, she will receive regular pay, equipment, housing and food, but she must do whatever her lord bids, and so we do not have control in the map of the game. It is Great Lord Takeda now moving us around the map. We are simply part of his party, like all of those soldiers before were part of ours, and it seems that Great Lord Takeda's will is to attack the Uesugi held fortress, Kaizu Castle. He's brought a massive war host to help him, considers going to fight their armies in a field battle there, but comes back to rejoin the siege. So the armies will prepare siege equipment and now will storm the castle, and Nariko will be expected to join the battle. You do not have any choice. The only other option than to join the fight is to betray your commander, which may be useful if your commander is making a bad decision, but of course it will destroy your reputation for the rest of your life. So we're beginning our attack on this castle. It's only lightly defended. We have the defenders hugely outnumbered. You can see this massive Takeda war host advancing on the enemy's walls that are barely defended. We can see the galleries mostly empty of defenders, and a little bit of sharpshooting will make them even more empty. So it should be pretty easy for our forces to win this battle. Not much risk right here. Nariko's official designation in the army is a Hatamoto Guard, meaning she is responsible for trying to keep the lords out of trouble, but right now that's not going to be possible given the massive mosh going on in front of her, so she's going to switch from her usual role as a cavalry officer and just support the attack using her gunnery, since we can't bring horses to sieges anyway. So the battle very soon easily won, the small defending force taken out, and Kaizu Castle now part of the Takeda domain. Our force is going to disperse, many heading back towards Kofu, the capital of the Takeda clan's territory, and its only major city at this point. So soon after, the forces moved out once again, and this time we were heading out for a field battle. It's an army of the Tokugawa sneaking into the northern end of our territory, and we're going to massively outnumber them 5-1 as we come into this fight. So now Nariko can resume her acts as a Hatamoto Guard, travelling with the lords and their cavalrymen to enter the battle, and she can also make use of her firearms to provide a bit of support as we get close to the enemy. The Takeda cavalry simply charge into the enemy before the infantry get close to the fight. A terrible choice. I almost charged in with them, but I'm in the middle of a reload, so I diverted and ended up in the midst of the enemy's skirmishes, but coming back around managed to take out an enemy in support of the main attack. But that attack's pretty much over straight away since the cavalry acted so suicidal. I can do my best to support from horseback. And you can see that instead of using the Chinese polearm that Nariko had specialized in using from horseback before, we're now using a Jumonji Yari, a proper cavalry lance that allows us to do a lot of damage from horseback, especially when you couch the lance under your arm and smash into the enemy with all of the momentum of the horse, which makes an unblockable attack the enemy simply cut down with huge damage being delivered. So very quickly this battle comes to an end since we had such a massive advantage anyway and the enemy losing way more than we did. And after each battle we are able to partake in the loot, just like our soldiers back in our old party would have been doing. We don't get very much because we're not at the top of the party pecking order, but still that's free loot for us and we're being paid to fight in these battles anyway. So it looked at first like the Takeda war host was going to press their advantage against the Takeda by now attacking one of their castles, but they actually gave up on that quite rapidly and came back around through Kofu and headed south, where they actually encountered another Takeda army moving up into their territory. So once again we face battle, the advantage not as large this time, but we still have 4 times their number, so not expecting a real challenge. Big open battlefield with lots of hills, and I was surprised that I couldn't see the very large enemy army that should be quite clearly visible, but actually it starts emerging from behind that hill in the distance, so we can do some very cheap and sharp shooting on it, but now must follow with the cavalry into the attack. So as battle is joined, our men just charge in recklessly once again. I managed to kill one of the guys who was attacking one of the lords, but it's not enough. There's too many enemy infantry to bring down, so we dodge out of that fight, charge through the middle of the enemy and smash the enemy commander off his horse with a lance to the chest. A fantastic move. We take a slash from an enemy officer though, losing almost all of our health. So going to need to be careful for the rest of the fight, but as I've mentioned in a previous video, when you are on horseback you are very safe to just maraud around the battlefield because most units won't be able to hit you. Their Takeda soldier started attacking me. We seem to have some defectors on the field today, but anyway, the enemy, whilst also distracted by my allied troops coming up, basically have no chance to stop me from cutting them down. So I'm picking out any troops I can and trying to prioritize the killing of officers who have heavy armor, so are difficult to kill for the infantrymen, but for an attack by a lance on horseback, that's nothing. It'll go right through even the best of armor because we have so much momentum. Now our forces really do try to capitalize on defeating the Tokugawa field army by going to besiege the castle of Sunpu. I know, silly isn't it? Either we should get a bigger table or create a smaller enclosure. Guards are so far away that they can barely hear us. In fact, guards! Guards! Come closer please! Bit more. That's it, thank you. Anyway, my lord, as I was saying, the rams will be ready by morning. We'll breach the gates to the outer compound and clear the towers here and here. At worst, I estimate we'll take 30 casualties for each. The second level has a stronger gate though, and more towers overlooking the moat. Hang on, Lord Hiro, hang on. I don't think the enemy will even dare fight us. Has anyone else heard of the secret spoil of that last battle? Here, Nariko, come up here please. You all know her, of course. Prettiest face in the camp, aren't you, Nariko? I am sure your wives would disagree. Imagine that, bringing our wives to the war council. Anyway, Nariko here, although she is far too humble to speak of it, ran a lance through none other than Honda Tarakatsu. What? You bested the heavenly king of the Tokugawa? Well, I think so. Of course she did. Everything they say about this girl is true, I assure you. My lord, I know it is quite unusual, but such deeds must be rewarded with authority to command. I'll give your girl a score of my own troops if I must. No, thank you. You take offence at my offer of troops? No, my lord. I just would rather not lead any soldiers personally. Says Nariko of 1,000 treasures, the recent envy of mercenary commanders throughout the land. She's so humble, didn't I say? This girl used to lead whole armies into battle for the Miyoshi clan. Not strictly for the Miyoshi, my lord. And that was in the past. Only this time last year, wasn't it? Well, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. You see how success doesn't affect her. All that, and she'll gladly give it up to be a wandering samurai once again. Books have been written about duller things. Back you go then, my girl. If you don't command troops, then this table is not for your eyes to behold. At once, my lord.
Anyway, gentlemen, without Lord Honda, the enemy's morale will be in tatters. Let me revise my estimate to 10 casualties per tower.
Now it's time to make that siege assault, then we're going to rush in, not actually at full health, so I need to be a tiny bit careful in this fight. A single blow could bring us down if it's from the right weapon. Of course, we're going to be taking down enemies from the towers as our force advance, might as well make use of our Teppo. Our men are going to rush through the open gate ahead of them into the courtyard, defended only by a small number of enemy melee troops, so shortly we should be able to smash through there. I can continue to provide support, and I move up to the wall. I want to actually go through with the men, but they're almost in my way here, so I'm kind of stuck. I decide to reload another shot, but something hits me. Didn't see what it was, but I lose loads of my health, so now I realise I really should get inside, because out there we're just a target for the enemy troops on the towers sitting on our own. So we'll stay with the crowd and move forwards. But I take another hit from somewhere, losing 10 more health, and now my health bar is invisible. We're on the verge. Another arrow narrowly misses me, flying over the top of my head there. I think I'm being targeted specifically by a few of the enemy's troops on these firing platforms. So I'm going to just stay out of the main fight now that I'm injured. What I can do though, rather than just sitting on the sidelines, is provide some super long range support, trying to stay in safe positions away from the enemy's towers now that the nearby towers have been cleared. Going to try and clear a tower for our troops to save them the effort in the future by just slowly sniping away at their heads, poking over the top, and that proves to be quite successful, taking down a whole tower out there on the corner of the castle. The rest of our men, who I'm now coming to check in on, have almost broken down the final gate to the inner compound of the castle. It too has towers overlooking it, which will be raining fire onto our troops, so once again we can provide support by just cutting men down and staying out of the danger zone to make sure our wounds don't get any worse. So eventually that fight is won, and Takeda's war host moves away from the castle and then immediately decides to move back to it. I think they're actually trying to track down the Tokugawa main force, which is in the area, but when they actually see it, they immediately run away, and we end up travelling north after that, just with Takeda alone, as the rest of his lords have gone off to do their own thing. We find Ueda Castle under siege here by, I think, Uesugi forces, and when we come in to fight them, it says the enemy actually break the siege and retreat as we advance. So we get stuck in this little loop for a while as the game isn't sure what to do with that information, and eventually nothing happens. Everyone seems to just run off, and that's the end of the siege at Ueda Castle, but we'll see in a second that's going to come right back. So Great Lord Takeda travels to Kofu to resupply. Usually when they go back to towns they get additional troops and then go back to rejoin whatever wars their clan is doing. And when we come back to Ueda Castle, it's once again under siege by the Uesugi, and Great Lord Takeda makes a rather fatal decision. He's going to head into the castle, breaking the siege to join the defenders, meaning we're now defending with 250 men against 650 men. Suddenly all those sieges we saw before where we had an overwhelming advantage and just stormed the defenders, it has been reversed. Now they're going to storm us, and Nariko finds herself on the first tier of defense against the enemy forces with a large number of the Takeda troops. So it's time for a deadly battle. We're going to have to see what we can do. The enemy's numerical advantage is so large in this fight that it seems impossible that we could kill them all, but we do have a defender's advantage, and as we get started especially, I'm going to be able to just cut down enemies without really taking any risk of damage to myself, since the enemy will be kept at bay by the structure of the defences. But quickly they're coming up the ramp towards the courtyard I'm in, and there's only a handful of men around to stop them. More men back there in reserve, not really going to get involved in the fight. Going to continue to try and shoot enemies down from a distance. I will do more damage by heading into fight in melee, but of course the risk is so much greater. So over the course of a long battle, better to at first at least just use ranged weapons to bring the enemy down. In this gallery you can see more enemies heading in from below, and we get a nice position to shoot into the blobs of enemy troops, relatively covered from any return fire the skirmishers down there might be making. Our troops on the right there start falling back quite rapidly as the weight of the enemy's advance pushes against them, killing many of our comrades in arms. I realise here that I'm actually trapped in this shooting gallery because that thing at the back isn't a door. There's no way out other than the one door I came in, and that's about to be compromised by this massive advancing blob of enemy troops. I'm going to stay at the back then, try and not gain their attention, and shoot through the window to kill any I can, trying to prioritise officers, but against a moving group of troops it's hard to really be that accurate. I'm looking for the fancy helmets to point out, but not worth spending too much time looking. An arrow flies up through the window and smashes me, losing 12 health. Not too much because my armor arrows don't pierce this really heavy armor too well, but a few of those will bring me down. And now the fight seems to have moved to the door of the room I'm now in. Not a good sign. The skirmisher there on the left just shooting the floor with his bow is obviously gone a little bit crazy in the face of death here. Nariko herself also going to face death unless we can clear out this doorway. Definitely need to keep it clear to stand any chance. So now she's slashing desperately at the enemy forces, many of whom are distracted by our allies nearby. So we get lots of free hits and cut down many opponents. But there are just so many opponents. They're just regenerating instantly as fresh troops come up from the back to replace those we're pushing away, which can't be said for our troops. We can see our men basically disappearing there, and now troops rushing into the gallery to fight with me personally. Not many allies left, but still we're going to try. Health down to a sliver. 2 more allies appear to help me out, and their distraction is actually vital. Some of the troops move to attack them, and we can rapidly now engage them in combat from the flanks and bring them down. This spearman goes down. I turn around to see my ally has killed the other enemy, so suddenly the gallery is cleared once again and the door is open as well. It seemed like the enemy weren't coming in anymore, so I was just looking through the windows to see where they are, but we see when we peek out this window there's loads of them right outside, many skirmishers shooting the other defenders on the walls. And another group comes in to hunt us down. I think most of their forces actually went around to progress deeper into the castle, leaving only a few to fight with the few forces left here, which makes sense. But Nariko is now certainly in trouble as a massive group of enemies storms in and starts attacking her. She dodged their arrows, but now at close range, it's going to be hard to dodge all of these slashes from so many enemies. She cuts down 3 in a quick melee, but is eventually cornered and knocked down. So those enemies will now use their bows to shoot all of our guys in these windows here, of which there are only a few remaining now. Inside the castle there's going to be pretty much no defences left since we lost so many men defending the outer tier of the castle, and those who are in there are dropping by the second. We have a group of men defending this gate to one of the inner courtyards, but it's so small in comparison to the enemy's group that by sheer attrition, unfortunately, this battle is effectively over. When the last blows were struck, Ueda Castle had seen 600 casualties, 450 of which were dead, mostly on the Uesugi side. Nariko, fortunate enough to have fallen in an unimportant part of the castle, was among the wounded rounded up by the Uesugi officers. All prisoners were taken to Kaizu Castle to the north, a fortress many of them had, only days earlier, stormed victoriously. For Great Lord Takeda, another survivor of the battle, this second march through the gates of the castle was rather less glorious than the first. The damage from the fighting did lend the captives a small perk. The prison tower had recently been burned down, meaning they had free range over the walled courtyard they were to be kept in. Importantly, this courtyard had to be passed through by any parties entering the castle. After 2 days, Nariko found herself able to walk without much trouble, and was able to lend some of her medical services to the other wounded prisoners, including the decreasingly conscious Great Lord Takeda. Quickly after exploring the courtyard, she noticed a secluded alley formed by the high walls of the Tenshu's grounds and one of the makeshift barracks. Hidden from view from the towers and patrolling guards, it was a perfect place to try and scale the wall. Empty wooden containers strewn about the outbuildings could provide a quick way to vault up. It took only a few hours to smuggle such materials into position. With a little strength, she could boost herself up onto the slates of the wall. From there, moving to her right would allow her to reach the top of the castle's exterior walls. But even if she survived the jump down to ground level, she would be clearly visible as she escaped, and would have to leave her whole cart of possessions behind. She could, though, head to the left to reach the warehouse in the adjacent courtyard where said effects were stowed. All she needed was a way to get them out without any questions, and such a way came along the following afternoon. A caravan stopping to drop off supplies and stay the night on its route north arrived at the castle. They were, by the layouts of the courtyard, forced to stop for some time in the midst of the prisoners while guards worked on securing and opening the gate leading deeper into the castle. With the caravan sporting its own protection, none of the guards saw fit to keep Nariko from carefully approaching the rearmost cart.
"Hey, want to make your run a little more profitable?"
"Forget it. How much you making from this stop?" Hear me out and I'll triple it.
Yeah, I'm sure those rags are worth thousands. Get out of here.
I'm not joking. You know they call me Nariko of the Thousand Treasures.
So then what are you doing here?
I'll tell you the whole story when we're on the road. Look, just continue on as normal, but let your crew know that you'll be getting an extra cart in the morning, so don't react when you see it.
Extra cart? We don't have horses to spare.
Just a hand cart, and they have 3 of my horses in the stable outside. They're coming too, so you can lighten your load.
One condition.
What?
As well as the money, you come with us all the way to Kessen. Lots of brigands about, and I think we all know your reputation.
They won't even dare to look at you. Until the morning, boss.
Now Nariko had to wait until nightfall, reporting to any prisoners who asked that her conversation had led to nothing. Escaping alone was the only way the scheme could go unnoticed, and the only other prisoner she considered taking with her, Great Lord Takeda, was still in no state to move. In the dead of night, she alone then rose to tread a careful path through the silent courtyard. Her bare feet echoed in the empty boxes as she nimbly ascended her hidden stack to reach the top of the wall. In the darkness, it was hard to see if anyone was watching, but that only meant she herself would be hard to see. She moved towards the next courtyard, noting a night guard outside the quarters garrisoned by the caravan. Covered by the guards yawning, she silently dropped from the wall into another hidden alley, formed by the wall and the edge of the storehouse in which all of the prisoners' effects had been thrown. A sliding screen quickly gained her entry. Most of her equipment was still there. She now had the rest of the night to very slowly and quietly gather what she could onto one of the handcarts propped up against the wall. Concealing herself in heavy armor, she awaited the dawn. In the morning, the front door of the storage building slid open. It was the caravaner she had spoken with the day before. Together, they wheeled the goods out to join the dozens of men and women assembling their own baggage. Nariko's equipment was so ornate that any of the castle guards would have assumed she was a high-born samurai and made no question of her identity. Without incident, the caravan departed with Nariko in tow. Taking her horses from the stable before the sight of another wordless soldier, she now just had to hold up her end of the bargain. A few days later, after an uneventful journey, Nariko parted with the caravan and a measure of her wealth. There was no reason to stay in Kessen for long, especially with the chance that the Uesugi would start looking for her, but after a long day's travel, she could afford the time to stay the night at the inn. That decision changed the fate of a great many.
Evening, innkeep. Have you a room for her?
Such a bad act, stranger. Something tells me you're bringing trouble.
Kijiro, my lady. Kijiro quickly explained that he was there to meet the very same caravan Nariko had escorted, planning to have them take goods westward on his behalf. But when it came for Nariko to make account of herself, the story was not so simple.
There is no rush, my lady.
Please, don't call me that.
I remember my oaths.
I've shattered your oaths. I can't... How can I explain? What did Tenkai tell you?
That he told you about the treasure, nothing more. Spent plenty of time guessing the rest.
I'm sorry, it was nothing. Not nothing, but it wasn't worthy. It wasn't an imperial treasure.
Can you be sure?
Quite sure. It was an urn of ashes. My mother's.
Oh.
Exactly that. I couldn't stay.
But I am relieved, Nariko-chan. Not the most glamorous answer, but better than thinking little enough of you to consider it all a deception of some kind. Now that I know the truth of it, I think it will be possible to convince others of your sincerity.
Mary. What happened to Mary?
She was not happy, suffice to say. She let her imagination run wild.
Where is she now?
Working, with me as it happens. Trading, guarding trade, that side of things. Still using Madeira as our depot. At this very moment, she'll be... Koichi, perhaps? Heading this way. I could arrange for her to meet with us. Unless, that is, you have business you'll be returning to.
I don't know. I am a samurai of sorts. I have duties. But there are things I'd like to... I just don't know.
You don't need to decide right away. I have a request. Will you show me the treasure?
Why? What does it mean to you? There is something about the whole affair that requires me to, let's say, bring closure. Where is the treasure now?
Kofu, in my lord's household. He keeps it safe for me.
How kind. Not too far, and we'll be closer to Mari for it. I say we head there. I'll hire some locals to handle the caravan job.
No, we can't. Great Lord Takeda is imprisoned by the Usugi, if he's even still alive. I am his Hatamoto. I can't return to the city without him.
Well then, I'm glad I brought my sword. Let's go get him out. As one door closed for Nariko, another opened, and through that door came her old life, crashing into the new. Thank you so much for watching. Nariko will have to rescue her lord and wrestle with the revelations her chance meeting with Kojiro will bring in the next episode of Nariko's Treasure.